Whenever
but it's like opposite though.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's almost like Luke Skywalker and Anakin, but who's who?
I love it. Let's dissect the hairstyles more after the intros. In the top right of Data C for Team Ents, he is the Red Zerg, Serral.
And spawning over in the bottom left as our blue Terran representing Team Liquid, it is Clem. Clem does kind of look like he could be playing one of those nice sweet boys in one of those terrible American dramas, you know?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about like the still very handsome, but apparently not as handsome as the Chad? Like sweet boy that the main character overlooks in the beginning?
Yeah, and then eventually falls in love with. Like,
exactly.
Even though they've been there the whole time, it's like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It also helps that Clem is actually a very sweet young man. He's been nothing but polite and earnest, and yeah, even a little giddy sometimes. If you've ever met him in real life, kind of has a quick way of talking. Well, I guess kind of all French speakers have a quick way of talking, but even more excitable for him.
Yeah, actually, most French people that I've met from like gaming, they all speak incredibly fast. Like I can't think of one slowbie. Like you try and talk with Drogo or Marine Lord, and it's like, oh man, you guys are off the charts. But yeah, here. Now, this is definitely the... this is as good as it gets, like, across the board. Like, a TVZ between Serral and Clem. Winner goes on to the top 6, and the loser, well, whoever's in their path is not going to be a happy chappy. We've already had players like Lambo who tweeted, hey, I'm going to have a really good run. Like, even though, I came third in my group, I want to come top 2. I'm going to make sure that I have a really good run in the bracket, in the loser bracket. He had Strange in the first round, but then I saw his tweet and he was like, rip me, yeah, disregard my last tweet. I went and checked who he's got, and it was the loser of these guys. So yeah, there's a few people that aren't happy about this matchup happening, but the rest of us are.
Yes, we're all very excited to... Well, I think we're excited anytime this would happen, and there's always that chance it would have happened in even the finals. Still is, actually. A rematch would be possible. So whoever loses this goes down to the lower brackets, face the winner of Strange versus Lambo. But they both want to win this one, as they will then move on to the upper bracket semifinals, and we'll be able to say, I beat the other great player in Europe. For Clem, it would mean a little more, as he has been on a losing streak against Serral. No doubt about that. But when's the last time they played in the actual regional tournaments? Because it's been some of the online tournaments. It was TSL 9, it was Home Story Cup, Alpha X, Home Story Cup, Home Story... Yeah, it just has not been a regional tournament since last year. Which, to be fair, Serral did win. So maybe the regional tournament power is getting leached away from Clem.
Clem is opting for a 3cc build here. It isn't like a crazy build. He's gone for the normal expo, gone for the factory, just doing it off one gas. Is he gonna... Wow, okay. Getting that creep tumor there against 2 queens / 3 queens, that's actually really hard to do, but already that's a little bit of confidence for Clem, and slowing down that creep early on is always a big deal. But behind this, most likely going to see something like Cloak Banshee. But we have seen Terrans like Gumiho, which he's one of the most opposite Terrans to Clem, do some freaky builds recently, but Clem very often likes to do the safe, true, and standard, and actually going for a Liberator with all this.
Yes, indeed. Yes, he is. So, kind of one of the lighter forms of harassment, kind of, but still has a lot of potential if you do just hit any player really at the right time. Even a Serral can have a slightly late reaction, let a drone line get barbecued for a hot second, let the Liberator kill 3 or 4 drones instead of just 1 or 2. It's Serral is adding on this Roach Warren, and I was kind of expecting it to be more hidden, so I was like looking around for it. It's right there on the front, adding to the wall. So not exactly hidden, but when the Terran players often shy away from actually entering into the main base, then it could effectively be hidden. But Clem actually decides to dive. Immediately, Serral goes to protect the drones with a couple evolution chambers. Oh, does not actually get that one. Now the Hellions, they have the drones in their sights. The drones, man, should just barely get away by the looks of things. Roaches will pop out. Drones, don't make a liar out of me. Okay.
I mean, this already was not good for Serral at all. Like, those Zerglings at the bottom of that ramp got caught out massively. And he was definitely... Well, he paid the price. This is almost like one of those old school Korean TVZs where the Zerg goes into it almost expecting to lose 10 or so drones, except in today's ZVTs, you cannot afford to lose that. That's already a really good start for Clem.
That really is, actually. And even some of those last Hellion shots were pretty impactful. So Serral, not just losing those drones, also the lost mining time. He also did make a couple of roaches that now they're just kind of useless. They're going to go across the map. So, well, okay, they're going to try, so I take that back. But let's just say they're not going to go across the map and do very much.
I wonder what the roach plan was initially, though. Like, was it just for defensive roaches? Because that feels kind of weird. Like, the only player that I really know that did that kind of stuff was Dark, where he would kind of go for this kind of funny mix against Terran quite often. But Serral, like, to me, he's just so good with the standard, and that doesn't often involve the roaches, actually.
Right. Dark would, 330 Roach Warren, and they would kind of open up an opportunity to either attack or defend with it. But Serral's was, I want to say it finished, later than that. So it did look like just the choice, the compositional choice. But not one that I was expecting from Serral, especially right off the bat, and certainly without the upgrades. So, yeah, it's been kind of a clunky start for Serral due to that and the Hellions, more so the Hellions, but still. And now we have very quick infestation pit. Extremely quick. He's just going to right in a hive.
I have no idea, but his upgrade's going to be super late if he's going for roaches. I think he just realizes that he's taken too much damage, that he has to go for something a little bit crazy. I don't know if it's going to be for fast infestors with this, but super fast hive. This is super weird.
It is very weird. So this was, so I want to say this was most common back in the beginning of Legacy of the Void, which is true, but it's not impossible to find amongst pros nowadays. It's super rare. I mean, I'd say this is more like what Bly sometimes would do if he wasn't proxy hatching you. So yeah, this is super, super insanely fast. I've even seen Serral go up to like a 9-minute hive, which is still pretty fast. But it's going to be 8 minutes, right? Or, well, maybe more like 8:30. Yeah, that's perhaps because he felt he had to do something very risky. Clem now knows about it, so if he was going to maybe play kind of an expected back and forth, kind of slow down the pacing because of expectations, well, that should change. He should know that he has an opportunity to just kill Serral.
Yeah, I think Serral's super dead here, Zombie Grub. Like, he's way behind in supply when it comes to Roach Ravager, behind in upgrades as well. And Clem, he comes over here, and Serral has to cancel his fourth. That is not a good situation. He's doing everything he can with the transfusions and such, but that's just too much Clem.
Yeah, this was not a very good start for Serral. Clem takes game one. One of the easier games against Serral that he's probably ever played. Because I gotta say, even if Serral sometimes does a 3-base Roach attack into like someone who played double Banshees, I still feel like Serral has more to play around in those types of games. That was just, well, from the Hellions. A done deal for Clem.
It's what happens when you steal a man's haircut, Zombie Grub. Like, all of a sudden you steal his power as well. Like, there's 4 Hellions, nice. The Reaper. They come in, they killed the 6-lings. Those 6-lings, it may not seem like the biggest deal, but those are meant to do lots of wrapping around and like just slowing you down a little bit, which they didn't get to do. Like, Serral definitely not as on point that game as he usually is. So I'm very curious what he was looking at that moment in time. It definitely felt not him when that was going on.
Yeah, no, that did not feel like a Serral game at all. So hopefully the second game looks a little bit better because we do want those back and forth games. Second game is going to be Moondance. So shorter. But Serral, I don't know, if Serral was going to do something cheeky with his Roach Warren, he didn't get to execute it, but I still feel like you just give up on it now. I don't, like, maybe he does it anyways, but yeah, I don't know if Serral is going to be winning with those early game pushes. First game already going so poorly.
We'll see. Luckily, it's a best of 5 for Serral, so, it's one lifeline gone, but he's still got a few more remaining, and we all know how good he can be. And he's very often not a player that truly tilts. Even when he visibly looks like he is doing, you know that he wipes the slate clean and he gets right on into it. And spawning here on Moondance, top left as our Red Zerg, it is Serral.
In the bottom right for Team Liquid, he is the Blue Terran, Clem.
the more I look at the haircut, like very often, Zombie Grub, you know, I don't like change. I'm a bit of a boomer in that way. I'm liking it. I like it immediately. And this game already, Serral's opting for a pool first here.
Yeah,
I'm thinking he might do one of those cheeky Zergling into Roach plays. It is a map that doesn't have a ramp up to the natural.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and a short map as well. So, you know, Serral has taken to this map, like many other Zergs, for throwing this into a best of 5 on Moondance. But I just, well, this is why, well, amongst many reasons why I'm not a pro gamer, I suppose. I just would have been so averse to it after the first game went topsy-turvy, almost like a bad luck thing, because it really didn't have anything to do with Serral's execution of the Roaches. He didn't even get there in the first place. But well, he still is going to stick with his plan, maybe that he had formed from the time the vetoes were done, to go for that pool first. And then, yes, we will see if it actually goes in anything else, but it's actually no gas, so right in the third hatch we go.
I like that as well. I mean, that's also a cool way to utilize the map, isn't it? Like, he knows that Clem very often, and when I say very often, will go with the SCV, scout the hatch, then move back immediately. Like, that's what he does. Like, he won't dive into suicide or anything, so he knows he can get away with this kind of play. And Serral, or rather Clem, has to respect this. He has to be like, all right, is this you going for Roaches? Is this, you know, there's so many questions. So you might see Clem go for like a blind bunker or anything like that. But yeah, this also has to be in the back of his mind that Zerg are able to do this, a third in the back. It's a cool opening by Serral.
Playing on expectations. I mean, I would not be surprised if, yeah, Clem did kind of over defend for just one quick second, you know, kind of like I don't want to play around here. Okay, no, it's not that. But so far, Clem is trusting what he's seeing, which is, you know, nothing of importance yet. So he is going to continue with his plan to go into a third CC, not changing that up, which I think actually would have been a tremendous change up. If Clem had actually overreacted to this and gotten a second gas, like a weird late second gas, because he is just so scared of the possibility, that would have been a super effective opener for Serral without even really doing anything.
Yeah, it certainly would have been. Serral on the 3 hatches, up and running now. Still no link speed on the way whatsoever. Very curious about how Serral's going to follow this up, because this is the kind of build that there's a lot of options for the Zerg. Clem very committed to killing these creep tumors early on, and so far it's paying off because he keeps that Reaper alive. The little dance for the SCV.
Right, yeah. I do appreciate watching these two micro. That's still a pretty cool part of the game. Once again, Serral's going to go for Roach. Here's the other thing, right? Let's say that Serral's just throwing these Roach runs because he wants to play into Roaches. Got me shocked, man. I don't necessarily think of Serral, well, I definitely don't think of him as a Roach player, and I don't necessarily think of Roaches as really all that strong to be. They're obviously strong in situations, not ragging on Roach players, but for someone to just go Roach, it's either dark or I don't like it. You know, that's where the line is drawn, I suppose. So I'm really surprised Serral is going Roach so far, and we'll see about game 3, 4, 5.
Clem did opt for kind of an old-schooly approach after the 3cc. It's into the 2-1-1, which I think is kind of cool. Where is that Roach Warren, by the way?
Natural front again?
Did he? He hasn't seen it. It's like right at the front, but it's the one place that he didn't get to scout. So far, Clem doesn't know, but he went for the 2-1-1 behind it. So he's going to have a lot of Marines out very early. But I feel that the Roach play is good against this. And if I do think about what Clem has been good against historically against Zerg, it's when they play very, very orthodox. So like some of the tanks, he'll skip them and just go straight into Widowmine play. This game, he doesn't look to be doing that. He's getting a tech lab on it immediately. But yeah, maybe that's why Serral's kind of clued into, hey, I'm going to play a little bit funky here.
Well, that's a very good point. You know, Clem definitely still seen as his power spike is going to be in the mid game. He's going to abuse the heck out of his early units, Hellions into drops, and then really be quite intimidating at that point. So if you have Ling Baneling, it is always a little bit scarier to perfectly defend. Roaches, not only are they a little easier when you have enough of them to just split them and kind of be done with them, they also intimidate the Terran in the mid game, because then they often can be paired with like a 1-1 timing attack, right? So kind of takes the power spike of Clem maybe out of the equation. I still think he's very good late game, of course, and he's certainly been practicing that late game for a while now, actually. But yeah, that might be exactly while Serral's doing it. So you really can't do anything against it except try and outmaneuver it. But once you get to a certain number of roaches, it won't be possible.
Also, we have to think about like what it's forced out of Clem this map. Would Clem have taken that back third base like he's done if he was against or not against the roaches, like seeing that roach warren and stuff? I'm not sure. Like maybe Serral knows something that we absolutely don't, that it forces certain reactions out of Clem on this map specifically. Like this is obviously me going into Serral's a 250 IQ god, which I still believe he is. But yeah, I do believe, honestly, that Clem isn't as comfortable against roaches as he is Lingbane.
I agree with that. For me, it's just that very few Zerg players get to deliver on the performance. Get to deliver on what roaches give them. You know, so I agree. Ooh. You're talking about the best roach players in the world. Ooh. Dark, maybe Serral. Once again, losing drones, though, to a couple of Hellions. Then, yeah, this, again, is forcing Clem to play a little unideal for his strengths. But he's already adapted. Yes, the third C in the back perhaps was part of it, but then also a very fast fourth base right into tanks. No pretense about getting into Widow Mines and kind of just playing the drop into macro at home.
I feel that Clem isn't making any errors at all. I think Clem's playing really damn well. Whereas Serral, he's the one that's potentially making the errors here. Like, these little Hellions are dealing a lot of damage in this series, and they've not been like the most massive, overwhelming commitments, right? And Clem's just been macroing really good, microing solid. The creep spread is phenomenal this game, besides at that top bit where you could potentially put a fifth base. But yeah, I feel that Clem's just playing good so far. Very, very cool play.
I mean, they both are really... Well, Serral did just lose drones, so definitely not perfect on his side, but they both are definitely playing a tight enough game to get to the late game. And that is where Serral is certainly setting his sights at the hive on the way, and Clem has kind of already acknowledged, basically, by having 4 CC and then starting up his Marauder production as well. Of course, we're also against roaches, but no doubt expecting him to fully embrace late game. Actually, I'm a little surprised, but no... Oh, there's a second factory. It's just not getting the tech lab on. Okay.
All right. Getting that +1 on the tanks is really important. It's really important against the roaches specifically. You'll 2-shot them instead of 3-shotting. So if he was worried against any kind of roach attack, that would help sort it out. Serral has hit hive already. And even though he took a little bit of damage, he still hit the point where he wanted to be, right? Like 80 plus drones, getting big upgrades on the go. And maybe most importantly, getting those Vipers out on the map, and an Ultralisk Cavern will be his tech of choice here.
And now that he's been able to accomplish it without any weirdness that the first game had, it does remind me of the way he has been playing previously. I'm not sure if it was against Clem specifically, but yeah, this is no longer surprising me. Serral has done these super fast hives before. In fact, not just Serral, other Zergs, in combination with a Roach Baneling play. So, okay, we're no longer shocked by that. I'm no longer shocked by it. And Clem obviously couldn't do much about it. There's, surprisingly, in a game like this, where again, 15 drones didn't die just right off the bat, there's really no super big weakness to exploit. And Clem can certainly try his best with this engagement to hit, but the Viper's are already out, so it's not even pre-Viper.
No, and Serral's going to finish up his +2 armor in good time. Like the +2 melee, obviously a little bit delayed, but it kind of worked out with the build, and that's kind of purposeful. Banelings don't give a crap about the damage in this matchup, really. Whereas everything else, getting the armor, that's the big deal. Slowing down. Oh my god. Serral's going for it. Maybe a little bit this time with the Blinding Cloud, but that's a lot of Zerg.
Yeah, but that's still one of the least ideal situations for a Zerg player. Well, it is usually... Feels good to take out most of the Terran's tanks, but there's still a lot of pile left over, and you got to replace some of those Banelings that you used. I guess right now there might just barely be enough to hold on, but Clem, even he was like, you know what, I'll still go ahead. Even though I lost most of my tanks, I will still push forward, trying to abuse this choke, exactly what he's trying to do. A Blinding Cloud on top of the bio, was hoping to maybe push them forward, but Clem was already splitting them back, and now they're probably going to be forced to pick up as Serral does hold. Clem not really working out in the main engagement, but not necessarily like losing here either, and then not getting that drop to do very much either.
No, it's trading, right? Like, he denied the 5th bait, or rather the 6th base by Serral, which worked out nicely while all that was going on. Did secure a 5th base behind it too, and he has teched up for the counter 2 ultras with the ghosts, which is nice. Like, they're both hitting their stride here. Like, Serral's getting all that creep spread going, and yet again, because Clem did a good job of clearing up. Oh no. Okay, that was almost an MMA situation there, except just one tank shot done. But yeah, Serral's absolutely doing well this game. 200 supply, maxed out, big upgrades coming online, and maybe he's going to be the one being aggressive now.
Oh yeah, most definitely. As Clem is going to be taking more of the defensive stance. I am very curious to see how a prolonged late game will look between the two, because I do feel like right now it is kind of more on the Terran trying to figure out how to deal with it, as Serral seems to have it on lockdown, considering how well he did against Maru in TSL in late game. And already things are going topsy-turvy for our Terran. 18 SCVs and the Planetary will fall. Not a whole lot of the army really was saved either, so it's not like we're going to have that big chase after the fact. And yeah, okay, Clem just died.
I was just thinking that. I was like, wow, Clem tried to kill Serral for, a good 12 minutes this game. Serral finally kind of leans back and he's like, oh, like I tried to play it late game and he died.
Yeah, he did. He just died. Well, that's must be disappointing. Even though it's a 12-minute, well, it's not even that long of a game, but still 12-minute game, and you did get to try, you did your build order, you did your drops, you did your push, and I wouldn't say any were like totally bad. It still resulted in just the one-punch man hitting you in the face. Cool.
This is the kind of game that if I am Clem's coach, like in his corner, and I'm like, all right, what do I tell Clem? Like after a game like this, because I don't feel anything went wrong at all, but he got absolutely slaughtered. And I would hate that job right now.
Right? Usually he looks up expectingly at you, and you look at him, you pen your mouth, and you're like,
It's like
what do you think went wrong?
Yeah, it's like that meme interview, It's like, I've got nothing to say. I've got nothing to say. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Clem, you're on your own, mate. Like, this guy's a beast.
Yeah, so obviously, looking at it as a whole, what the hell was that?
I have no clue. I think I just heard some random laughing going on, but...
Did you guys? Maybe chat didn't, or maybe you guys didn't hear it. But anyways, looking at it as a whole, we can now say that obviously that lack of pressure. Was it a dog? I'm still curious. Anyways, the lack of pressure that really no pressure was really put on Serral at the end of the day, I guess. All right, the push looked like it was still okay because he still came out of it. Like 20, 30 army supply behind. When you're set up as a turtle Terran, with your planetaries done, and your tank siege, and your transition into Ghost at least already underway, it doesn't seem like it's unrecoverable. But then looking at it again as a whole, clearly kind of was, because he was not in position. Maybe he wasn't on the type of composition he was hoping for. He would have wanted more time to add in more Marauders or more Ghosts. And so it was a really easy break for Serral. It's just not how I thought it was going to go in such an easy fashion. I did not think that was going to be the break to break Clem. It might have been kind of one of those break a pinky finger. It's probably quite painful. It's not the end of the game. But instead it was well, I don't know.
Every ultra just did what an ultra dreams of doing, just gone top and just kind of cleaved everything, right? Like the Banelin's connected with everything, the PF died, and it was like, oh, yeah, nothing worked out. Like the Ghost couldn't connect anything either. Sad situation. I don't think Clem expected Serral to take that fight kind of off the creep, in the middle of the map against all his tanks sieged up, because that kind of felt like that was the best fight Clem could get, but still wasn't the nicest given that all his tanks died. And again, when you're put in this position where you've made so many tanks and you're not against just a pure roach mix, I think that's always a weird situation for a Terran to be in, because it's like you want to make the Widowmines against the Ling Bane, but you want to make the tanks against the roaches. Then what happens when you've been forced to make all these tanks, then they've switched out of it? These are also things that make the roach play quite difficult to go up against, but we are going to get into the third map here. Spawning over in the top left of Cosmic Sapphire as our Red Zerg, it is Serral.
In the bottom right for Team Liquid, he is Clem.
Now I'm wondering what happens if he doesn't take, any damage from these Hellions early on, because that game he also took like 8 drone kills to those random 2 Hellions, but I guess it was past the time in the game that it really truly mattered. But Yeah, every map from here on out will be very different to that one. Like, this can't be most likely won't be a gasless opening, and yet again, given that Moondance is very different with that Pocket Expo. But I like how Serral played the map for that, and it worked to great success for him.
Opener was very cool. And we got to see the power of his Roach choice, and the way that he was able to play it out. It just was such a severe difference of when drones died and how many, of course. But the earlier and more is what killed him in the first game. Losing a handful a little bit later on was clearly not as impactful. So that then does make me concerned for Clem, because I fear what is going to happen is that Serral can do that again and again and again. Even though he can't do like the pocket third base again, he can still kind of protect himself well enough to get into a pretty fast hive. And then Clem doesn't win in the late game. So Clem instead starts to prioritize even more on the mid game, which you would hope would be the solution. But we know that Serral has also shored up his defense there too. So basically, I'm worried that Clem is going to hit a brick wall unless he can, I don't know, power up on the macro stage, a little more punching than jabbing, or get something really crazy done like a Hellbat attack, which I think all of us aren't really big believers in.
No, absolutely not. It feels a long time since they really kind of did what you wanted them to do. Maybe though, because I feel that Clem, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to see him do 1 or 2 openings. It's like the 3 CC build, which, don't get me wrong, really good build, and he's really damn good at it. Like, he's one of the pioneers of this kind of style, really, where you just scout, make sure you're not going to die to anything, and you go with it. But if you're against a Serral that seems to be kind of molding to you and playing what is kind of like a newer style, and he seems very good at it, maybe you have to start shaking things up a little bit.
Well, Clem's not really going to shake it up too much. Still going to the 3rd CC. He already is changing it from a 2-1-1 into a 1-1-1, but how much more is he going to change it?
Yeah, I'm happy it's not a 2-1-1 again, though. Like, even though it wasn't the standard old school 2-1-1, I do feel that Zergs are so good against that stuff recently. And maybe it's just one ladder game I played where it totally threw me off, and I tried it and I died miserably. I'm like, God damn it, 2-1-1's still haunting me. But I much prefer to see his like Banshee kind of stuff. I think with Banshees, that is really where you can kind of flex your muscles a little bit better. Like the Liberators can be shut down pretty hardcore. The Banshees, on the other hand, once you get 1 or 2 of them and he is going for it, I feel that that's when your micro can really show off with the harass.
I think that is true. They get the higher skill cap, if you will. But I also feel like I constantly am going back and forth, depending on which race is kind of pushed farther ahead, I guess, in skill, as to whether the Zerg players have got it kind of locked down, or the Terran players are actually capable of getting those 10 drone kills, right? Which, well, in this case, they don't necessarily have to get 10 drone kills because it's a 3 CC. But yeah, the micro that Clem can do could be more than equal to the, or as equal, I'm not sure, to the micro that Serral can do to counter the damage. So I guess I'm 50-50 on the Banshee choice. We'll see if it can do damage and then maybe open up more of an opportunity for the eventual Marine tank push.
Yeah, like both these players are going for a far more standard game between the two. It's a bigger map, it's pretty huge, but the number of bases isn't phenomenal. Like, you can see that it's a very much cantoned to a 50-50 split. But yeah, so far more standard here. Serral is going for that fast lair, along with most likely bailing speed quick before the upgrades and stuff, whereas Clem choosing to fight on creep here with the Lings and stuff against the Queens, and so far trading pretty okay against the Lings, but those Hellions are battered and bruised.
Right. And I didn't try and go in for that last Queen kill, probably expecting a transfuse to be available anyways, so it just would have been a bit of a bait. Might have been correct on that one. So brings the Hellions home. It's now gearing up to go swiftly into bio. Actually, I miscounted. Oh, I miscounted. Okay. One of the situations where the barracks are finishing as I was looking. Yeah, he is adding on now a total of 5 barracks. 3 CC done. Properly protected from any Ling run-bys that could have been made. Serral does a 16, but knowing the Hellions are alive, not going to try anything. And just droning up himself. Banshees have not really made an impact quite yet. Kind of like cloaking up and trying to do something.
Funny to reveal them on the Lings, right?
Kind of, yeah.
I feel that's one of those situations where you're like, oh, he's going to definitely have spotted this blur. Like, this guy's phenomenal. And then you just kill the first thing you can. But I think that's also just, like, respecting his opponent a lot. He realizes trying to get these guys in there to deal damage is going to be tricky, as we do see 3 Spore Crawlers on the map. Overseer done in pretty damn good time. This game, though, Clem's supply is actually ahead of the Zerg, which you don't see every day. It is Ling Bane, but the amount of units that he's going to have is going to be pretty damn scary and pretty damn tricky for Serral to hold on, I feel.
Yes, especially if he is able to kind of utilize this choke the Hellions are at. If the creep isn't respread, which of course it's going to be respread, but because the question is how much. The Clem's already working up to his second factory as well. 2 Banshees might team up with the 2 Medevac drop, try and do some harassment. I don't know if Clem's really expecting a lot from either one, but pairing them up might result in a bit more. 3 drones from the Banshees moving to the natural, but it is kind of also pulling away perhaps Serral's focus from this attack, which it really didn't. It was even tempted to go after it before the Woodamines actually burrowed up. But there you have it. Creep spread now denied on this section, and there is where you can maybe abuse a little bit more of the choke.
I mean, they're both playing really well here. You can really see the tango on both sides where they're both microing back and forth. This, to me, though, feels a lot more like Clem's comfort zone of where he wants to be. 1-1's about to finish up for him. We've got aggressive Widowmines placed as well. He still kept all those Hellions alive, and maybe most importantly, healed them up as well. Oh, lovely Zergling split.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Well, Serral setting up for a bit of a run by, but looks of things. There is currently nothing at the third base, which is Overseer's free to see, which maybe Clem will want to fix that. Or, well, Serral just moved the Overseer, so. Either way, they are going to be Banelings regardless. Crashing in, but Clem has now got a lot on the front lines. He is just reinforced. Now the Hellbats are available as well. More Widowmines coming forward too. Serral is looking for a bit of an engagement, hoping to take down something before retreating, building more units, and the Banelings just rolled in as well. Killed 10 SCVs, not the worst. Serral still has a lot of army on this side of the map, but the Widowmines kind of going every which way, not actually burrowing. Finally get to burrow after losing a couple of their lives. And Clem, still 40 ahead in army supply, is looking to deny this 5th base.
He certainly is, but the Banelings, Serral is playing so damn well. He's just biding so much time. The creep spread's still being spread. The Queens hold strong. These Widowmines haven't got the connections that he's been after. And right now, Clem has to deal so much damage here because he is behind over 20 workers.
Right, yes, and you know he's no longer as ahead in that army supply, but he also kind of played it a bit fast and loose right there. He was pretty deep onto creep, a creep that you can't get rid of actually because the hatchery was going to finish. And yep, actually provides the creep. So now it's a little bit more methodical, slow and steady, hoping to take some decent trades leading into the big pounce if Serral ever gets overconfident or ever lacks Banelings. His Ling run by once again looks to distract.
Yeah, a few drones are dying somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. Okay, the cheeky Banshee coming into play, and yet again, the only drones that have died this game, I think, have been at the hands of the Banshee, so they've definitely done a little bit here. But Serral, he survived long enough to start getting out the Hydras. Now, the supplies are pretty close. Serral is supply stuck for the moment as well. But I feel that he's starting to get a little bit of breathing space here. Did forget his +2 armor, which is a big deal, because of all the upgrades, that's the one you really want here.
I think that Serral has given himself more than just a little bit of breathing room. That 5th was in a bit of trouble, but once Clem had to pick up, it was kind of, it wasn't over, but it was much easier. And now Clem has just acknowledged that he will not be breaking that, not now anyways. 14 more SCVs go down to another Baneling run by. Didn't have anything in the bunker by the looks of things to even try and distract the Banelings. No Widowmine was placed either, and Clem kind of feels like he's losing all momentum, right? Because even though he managed to get a 4th base up and running without Serral even noticing it until the very last second, he's been losing on the bit on the front lines, bit behind the lines as well, back at home. And Serral, well, now he's finally moving on to that hive. So I'm not saying that Clem's out of the game. It just looks like it's not going to be a break in this 5th, unfortunately.
This is how you know both these guys are fast. Even our observer can't really keep up with what's happening. It's like there's Widowmine drops happening as all this is going on. There's a 4th base by Clem up and running. And look at this, Serral feeling confident enough to move off creep here. And the medevac count is also being massively thinned out by these Hydras, by the Queens. Clem is finishing up his 2-2 here, which is good. And he does immediately start that +3 attack as well. But the thing is, Serral is now on 86 drones. Like, he doesn't really need to make any more drones. His eco is great. He's starting that hive, as you talked about. And Yeah, his army's only going to get bigger and stronger from here on out.
Really, the only concerning thing for Serral is that lack of creep spread right now. Because that is still a point in favor for Clem as he continues to push the same area over and over again as Serral looks to defend it, right? So it does sometimes happen that the Zerg gets a little overeager, actually moves out on a creep like this, and is wrong in their calculation. So far, Serral has been pretty much right on it, though, and once again, is going to be right here because there wasn't the entire army on the front lines anyways for Clem. There's a little bit back at home, there's a little bit to the top right, which is now trying to dive in and get something done, but all it's going to find is a couple of creep timbers.
Oh, that was
pretty good Widowmine shot.
Yeah, some of these Widowmines actually have been pretty brutal, and even though Serral was maxed out, Clem's been climbing back, and his army's pretty damn good as well. Like, 190 supply for him. He's closing in on getting that +3 weapons, but these Baneling run-bys, oh my goodness. That single Widowmine had a big job to do, but that was not it.
10 more SCVs. What is that, the total? 41 SCVs have died in this game. Now, a lot of Banelings have been used for it, so at a certain point, you do wonder, since Clem is going up to now 5 bases, you know, is 12 Banelings really worth 10 SCVs? Probably not, actually. Much more brutal back when we were still stuck on 3 bases. Also, successful escape from Clem, just barely, with 3 medevacs picking up and leaving. But now they have to unload, and are going to find themselves out of position to defend the 4th base. The Banshee smartly checks. He knew that Serral was probably going to be coming across the map and does get position fast enough. Serral's not willing to take the engagement off creep against prepared Clem with the planetary. Wisely pulls back, burrows 1 single Baneling, not enough to actually kill the units. And now it's revealed that he has burrow.
Yeah, both of these are doing so much with every little fight that's happening. You can just see the micro going on. Like burrowed lings here, popping out places. That one weakness we talked about, that was the lack of creep spread. It's now kind of covered all half of the map. And both of these guys are expanding really well. Both up to a damn good eco as well, and both maxed out, most importantly. This is the kind of game I wanted between these two.
Yes, yeah. Also, classic TBZ, Ling Baneling versus the Bio. Hiders and Lurkers will eventually be involved, but we are not getting to a point where Serral can just one-punch Clem. Clem has actually held on, provided the appropriate amount of pressure, at the very least, even though he didn't actually kill that 5th base, to safely get to his own 5 bases, and 3-3 eventually will be done. His attack's already done, so that's the most important upgrade anyways. Already pre-spread for a possible engagement. I don't think Serral is necessarily expecting this engagement to go, like, win the game, but especially since it's a kind of 2 attacks, they certainly could have done a lot of damage. Good Widowmine placement, kind of detects it at the very least, and Clem has to pick up and leave, but now he can know Serral's plan, and the sensor tower also being there to reveal, give Clem a little bit of a heads up. Maybe he can cancel the command centers. Now, if he even has to, Serral chooses to roll beyond them and won't get the cancel.
Yeah, right now Serral's supply is staying maxed out, but Clem is kind of to some degree too, and there is so much Zerg all over the map. Big Widowmine detonations, but Serral's doing a good job of splitting. Parasitic Bomb joins the mix, lovely splits out of Clem on the medevacs, but does lose the PF.
Yes, which I think it was very wise of him to go ahead and evacuate that. His units just weren't going to really win that fight in that way, so it was smarter to save the SCVs and plant another one of these command centers down, since he knew he still had them on the way, too. He was having 2 more, actually 3 or 4 more, in fact, with even more on the way, of course, because we're in late game TVZ. And while that was happening, he at least denied Serral from grabbing that gold base. And as we get to a very long TVZ, to go back to your point, where this map, despite being very large, doesn't actually have all the bases in the world. I mean, it's not even symmetrical. That gold base exists in one place only. So that is going to become a point of contention for, of course, both players. Serral is Zerg, going to be using more resources, typically take these engagements, needs more resources because of it. For Clem, he might run out of spaces to actually expand that Serral isn't already tagging, you know? So he's got to be very careful with how he expands.
Yeah, and, you know, it doesn't get easier before it gets harder for Clem. Lurkers are now joining the field, and I'm looking at that production tab. There are big upgrades coming. Oh no. For a bit. Like, you know, I never see these players miss these things. If they have the opportunity, it's not one of those moments where it's like, oh, is he going to do it? It's like, oh, of course he's going to do it. Obducts even on Ghosts over here. Snipes going down on the Lurkers as well. But that's so much Zerg flooding in. Big Widowmine hit.
Yeah, that Widowmine hit. Well, that was pretty good. That killed like 15 banelings at least, right? And also stop the momentum. Serral looked like he wanted a little bit more from it, but I had to give it up after that with a mine hit. Plus, there just wasn't, I think, too much to grab anyways. It was off creep. Clem was paying attention, and the planetary was still up and running. Soon to also have its upgrades, at least building armor. Staccato tracking not on the way quite yet. And we have got ourselves now some more spellcasters on the way for Serral. So it's going to be including Fungals, Neural Parasite immediately queued behind it too. So we could be having some Knurling of the Ghosts. Serral's been pretty good about that.
Yeah, Serral's doing a good job of keeping Clem super damn busy, so he doesn't need to defend so much against all of this. And Clem, he has one base left for him, which is that top right base that we see him working his way over to. Serral knows that. But he also knows that Serral most likely has that gold base in the bottom left that they've been fighting for continuously. It's just, Serral's making Clem, he's forcing him to make a choice here. Do you stop him from expanding, or do you get your own expanding? You're still technically behind. But yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, that's the difficult choice on a map such as this for the Terran. Clem kind of stays the course for now, just trying to get this one more base. And if he gets this base up, it is going to be very short distance to Serral's, what do you call that, his 7th, I guess? But if he does that, then Serral might just go to the other side of the map with his faster units and try and take on, let's say, the Planetary, which is exactly what he is going to get. Planetary is, in fact, a goner. Clem just prepared to replace it. I don't think he can afford to replace it with a command center, though, just because this will be such an undefended area without a planetary. This will lead to now the natural potentially being an opening attack spot for Serral, that it's kind of a domino effect. So you can't just say like, oh, I didn't want that base anyways. You kind of still want something there.
Serral's really giving him no breathing room, man. Like this PF, I love that he cancelled it there on almost completion just to keep it alive, realizing that, okay, his economy is definitely even battered and bruised. He's not out. 69 workers alive, but look, Serral is just smothering him with so much Zerg all over the map. He's playing it true Swarm style, but so meticulously as well.
At least Clem's going to try and do something. As I said, it's very close attacks to the base of Serral, but even that hasn't really worked out here. The tanks weren't really sieged from the get-go. The bio was a little disjointed, and he was still being harassed and distracted by the attack on the left side. Now Serral has had time to maneuver the rest of his army to the top right, so the Ghosts alone will not be able to cut it. They're just taking what they can get before they're being picked up and evacuated back to the planetary. Like Clem, he's pretty much out of cash. He's gonna have to drop units on top of the engagement, which is never ideal, so just, yeah, don't even bother. Just continue evacuating. But that was a base that Clem very much needed. He is running out of minerals, desperately now trying to once again find at least one base of Serral's, but that's not gonna be enough.
I mean, when you get over to this gold base and it's like, okay, can I get this for free? And it's like, no, even this is a trade. And maybe Serral even keeps it alive at this point. You know, I see red just flood across the map. He's using that highway of creep on his side just to make things even smoother, and even using a fungal in the mix here. Serral survives and also deals a buttload of damage.
Clem probably feeling kind of out of options. This is such a difficult map to get two bases, two sides of the map really well defended. There are some other maps out there, like I think Data C would be a nicer one, where you can do a little bit of the hopping of command centers, but then also still have a decent shot at defending your original command centers, you know, the ones on the left side versus the right side situation. But Cosmic Sapphire is such a large map with these kind of gaps between the bases that, yeah, Serral's basically abusing it, either going through the middle or opening up the left side, then continuing to hammer the left side so that Clem can just basically only say, at least I got the right side, but that's not going to be enough if things keep going the way they have been.
Nah, I mean, like right now, Serral's winning fights on both fronts here, and every fight that we see, there's just so much red swarm everywhere. Those SCVs, oh my goodness, not one of them's going to make it out alive here. Fungal on all the Ghosts as well. Oh, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Infestor, and GG. Serral up 2-1 here.
Yeah, and watching the last, let's say, 5 minutes of that game was just, I don't know about you, but it was making me scratch my head and say, what do you do against this guy? Because Clem maybe isn't the best late game TDZ player. That seems to be kind of community consensus. You know, Maru would be. Well, Maru also pretty much just played Serral and tried the late game thing, and he also looked a little lost. So, yeah. What do you do then? The Muslim coach, tell Clem.
I already felt it the game before that I wouldn't know what to say, and now I especially feel it. You know, it is going to be Waterfall, the 4th map, so maybe Clem can utilize the size of the map a little bit better, because of all the maps in the pool, that was one of the biggest, and that is the hardest to really deal with that style that Serral played, because he fought with 2 armies as far away from one another as you can, which that is tricky to deal with, you know, like there was just so much of him. But he was always very cost efficient with it, which makes him incredibly scary. But yeah, these two, they're great. And that was the kind of TVC that I want to see between them. But yeah, Serral's army comps and the fact that he never allows Clem to breathe. And that's how Clem wants to play, you know, he wants to keep the Zerg smothered and really bring the tempo, but Serral's just playing at such a pace right now. Like that first game, I was a little bit worried because I was like, oh no, is this you know, lost to Gerald? Is that rocked him a little bit? But no, like this Serral that we're seeing right now, this is some of the best Serral that you'll ever see. Yeah, he just keeps on getting better and better. It's ridiculous.
And even though Waterfall looks like a map where that just shouldn't be the case, Serral should be the one at least a little bit more scared of the Terran at all stages of the game, really. It's actually not been the case. Like, factually, in the maps that he has played of Waterfall, he has still looked about as dominant as Serral can look. So I am still very worried. But I guess if this is the best chance, then we still have some hope for Clem. In the top right, up 2-1, he is Team Ence's Serral.
And spawning over in the bottom left is Team Liquid's Clem. Going to be a tricky one to bounce back after those 2 losses, because after the first game, you know, you got significantly ahead from some early Hellion shenanigans, but then in every other game it's been like, well, once this enters a game, it's ridiculously hard to win against this guy.
I don't know what else to add. Clem is the one that's got to figure this out. I don't know which build he's going to go for this time around, since it is the short, not just short, but also condensed map, you know, just like dimensions wise, it's quite small. Does Clem decide to go for something a little more 2-base oriented, or does he still stick with the 3cc that he has for every single map so far? I want to say this, the former one makes more sense, because one, he kind of looks like he's the one that has to change things up. He's the one that's losing out here. And 2, it's the map. I think it's the strength of the map, but Serral seems to have gotten so good at identifying those types of things as well. Either the straight up 2-base attacks that just kind of hope to club you over the head, say, like, you know, even if you saw it coming, you're still going to die. Serral does fine against that. And Serral's also been rather good against any of the tricky builds, which certainly Maru has tried to throw out to a lot of different Zerg players, you know, kind of like the fake 2-1-1s, the little like medevac drops, right, with like the cyclone or a tank or something like that. Like, he's really tried to mix things up. We even saw Spirit, that's who it was, do a very sneaky build in this map against a laser, and actually a laser did a wonderful job against it too. So I'm coming up empty basically on what I would advise Clem to do. If Clem saw a weakness, hopefully he can exploit it here.
Yeah, I think Clem just has to think about what made him great. And what made him great was the fact that he is absolutely one of the best at non-stop fighting, and once you start, you never stop. Like these marine fights around the map, the Hellions, you bring them all together. Doesn't necessarily need to go for these massive pushes, just needs to constantly attack his opponent. And I think if he can kind of get into that mindset again, then there's hope, right? Because so far, it's been one of those series where if I'm a Terran looking for, oh, what does the best Terran in the world do against Zerg? And it's like, oh, okay, I die too. You know, just feels sad. But we do see a little bit of a mix-up on his end. He is going for second gas, and most likely into a much faster starport here, which, I want to say a much faster starport, faster tech with it, delaying that third CC. Right.
Biggest change up so far for Clem, I guess. No third CC. Yeah. This does mean that I feel like earlier on we kind of have a how to say, like, a determining number, like how good is Clem going to be able to play this out. If he doesn't get about 10 drone kills, seems to be kind of the number here. If he is going to go into Hellion Banshee, by the way. then that's already a bad sign for him, right? Where in the previous game, since he was on 3CC, we could at least say, oh, well, he's got this and that going for him. If it's going to be Hellion Banshee and he has transferred over, started up the correct upgrade as well, then yeah, if he is entirely deflected, it will not bode well for him even earlier on in the game. And he might be trying to, maybe he noticed that Serral didn't actually know he had Banshees last game. Well, this time he actually is going to find out.
You saw that Corvid reaction for a moment there too, right? And I was like, oh my god, what's happening? But yeah, we do see Banshee Tech on the way. Tech Lab are going to start up Stim very quickly this game. This is what having that second gas really allows for you. I remember one of the first players I saw really doing this was Innovation, and I know that's a long time ago. And I was like, why does he get Stim so early? Like, you can get the third CC much quicker if you delay it and yada, 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 but getting that Stim quicker allows you to get the combat shields quicker, allows for that double medevac to just deal so much more damage, like, and more promptly. And it really all started making sense to me when I watched him play closely, and I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. So I do think Clem is going to start playing the map a little bit here. And I think also, even though he is a player that can also look like he tilts a little bit, he always plays damn good. And no matter how far Clem will ever fall, I still think he has some of the best micro in the world when it comes to his bio and Widowmine usage. And yeah, if he can get down to it and really get into a game here, any Zerg on the planet will be very scared of Clem.
Yeah, Clem is still scary. Serral is not just imagining him picking up the trophy right now. He still has mid-game Clem to face, and he knows how scary that is going to be, especially on this map. So definitely taking things seriously, but so far so good on Serral's defense. Did take a bit of a drone hit just having to get those defenses set up, of course, the Spore Crawlers, and some number of Lings, like the Hellions, and a decent number of Queens, but when are Queens ever bad? But point is, he has stopped the drones from really being attacked. He's lost one Overlord so far, and that was on purpose, right? The suicidal Overlord Scout. And I think Clem wanted a little bit more. I know it seems really dramatic, but the fact that these Banshees have yet to do any more is already, yes, concerning to me. So I hope this follow-up, maybe tank attack, is really good.
Yeah, like there's definitely quite a few locations where you can slam a tank, but oh my god, these Banshees are kind of lucky that these Queens are on placing those creep tumors there, because I dare say if Serral was a little bit more aware there, could have maybe sniped one. But Serral moving up to take his fourth base. He went for the fast Baneling speed with the later upgrades, but his upgrades are still on time with Clem's. That is not a good sign if you're a Terran player.
Right. Another thing that could have gone differently if, again, it was a 3rd CC build or just not a Banshee build. Could have had faster upgrades, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Chose the Banshees instead, trying to get some of that harassment. Ideally, you do get the drones plus hovering around the edges of creep to deny that. So far, they've just been able to hover and not even all the time because they were weakened. Now they're going to at least lead the charge, I guess, all boosted up on the health again. And Clem is managing to leave without Serral noticing. I do feel like Serral usually has like a Ling, right, as the first sign. So it's only going to be the creep spread, and not that much creep spread. Well, it's kind of surrounding Clem, so it is still a decent amount of creep spread. But I was thinking the 2 creep tumors, once those are gone on the bridge, that is it. And it'll be a time to attack the hatchery.
This is always worrisome, Samagrove, like, so worrisome, being in this location, because it's like, oh yeah, you can only attack me from here, right? And I mean, Clem's situated himself very nicely. I also like those Hellions he's got at the back too. But it is quite a distance there to that hatchery to really get crucial damage done. Look at that. Unsieges a tank. Will get firing here, and Serral, oh, he's just shutting this down.
Yeah. It actually was, I feel like that was almost never promising. He didn't even take care of the active creep tumor. There's 2 of them. I think it's only took care of 1. And then besides that, there was all the creep behind him, which was not something he was literally standing on, but was nonetheless giving both a boost to the units before they engaged, as well as giving Serral some scouting. When you have that creep spread kind of encompassing the Terran attack, you know that you can kind of situate your surround in a certain way, so you could be ultra confident in pulling the trigger, which Serral was. And I think you could see on Clem's webcam, he's not necessarily happy with how this has gone. At no point has he really gained an advantage. Serral has never faltered or been afraid.
No, and I feel that this kind of lining up a big push style from Clem isn't what I saw him be really damn good with. It's a lot about the little skirmishes, all the little fights where he does stuff like this, where he picks off some banelings here and there, and then ultimately, when it does come to a bigger fight, he's just built up so many little victories that he's in good shape. Now, this game, he's lined himself up for a style that I would link more to Hero Marine, where he's on like 8 barracks, 3 CC, and he wants to do a massive push, but with the amount of creep spread going, the fact that Serral's got himself into such a good situation, I can't see that ever working here, Zombigrub.
I feel like saying Clem is already dead is not too much, actually. But maybe a little too much. There's still a game to be played out. It's possible Serral throws 20 banelings into a Woodamine or into tanks that he doesn't quite kill or something like that. So we'll watch it unfold. He will. But Serral has everything he wants. 5 bases, lots of creep spread, getting up to that hive. Not yet on it, so, dealing with the tanks will have to be through just numbers and surrounds, which Serral is good at, but just nothing as easy as abducting. And once again, Serral is setting up for the engagement. Here we go, coming in from 2 different directions. A little bit of that creep to work with. Now there's a lot of Marines behind those tanks that are ready to spread off of creep. So Serral shouldn't continue any longer, but he knows that. He pulls back with plenty of banelings left over that even if Clem thought he had a moment to pounce, it's really not the case.
Look at the 2-2 as well. If either one of them think they have a timing, they absolutely don't. Cleaned out all the tanks, backed up, realized that, hey, without the tanks, you can't really threaten this hatchery super hard, and he's getting ready to do some counter damage as well. Like, it feels so hopeless for Clem, and Serral's just looking bigger, better, stronger here.
I actually really like that Serral gave up the space. This was still a little feisty with the lack of creep spread now, and just 1 or 2 tanks, just literally 1 tank reinforcing, but still, it was a little feisty without that creep spread, so he just gives up base. I think he still could have maybe held on to it if he really wanted to give it a go, but then also why? He's still on a acceptable situation as his hive is now done. He can include those spellcasters. He kind of replaces the base at the top left. Now, we can only do this so much on Waterfall, of course. So rinse and repeat 2 or 3 more times, and I am starting to favor Clem. Just once is not enough.
I mean, Clem's got himself up to a very good supply here, and they both are on very similar supply. It's just that Serral's on hive. He's getting adrenal glands. He is on a lot of bases, and he's absorbing his side of the map. But Clem, he's kind of just going from side to side here, clearing all the creep, making it a bit harder for Serral to move around, but every time Serral takes a fight, it's a good one for him.
The tank count's really not that impressive. Second factory took a long time to actually be slapped down. It's only coming down just now, guys, as 10 SCVs, 14 SCVs go down even more. Command center under fire as well is going to be lifted. Should expect that, but Serral did all of this on Clem's side of the map. So once again, if Clem thinks there's a pounce opportunity, that's not necessarily true. There's creep spread to get through. There's banelings reforming already. And yes, the additional technology is going to be added on. If Clem could maybe do a little counterattack and actually kill a base, that would just be awesome. But is going to have to settle for a couple of creep timbers.
Oh, and I mean, Viper's coming out as well here. The full medevac goes down. That tank on the high ground was about the most cost-efficient thing there for Clem. And look at Clem in his chair. He's feeling the pain. Like, it's not often that you are such a good Terran and you go up against such a good Zerg that it makes you feel like Clem's feeling right now. He has what seems like very little chance going up against Serral right now, and that's just huge testament to how good Serral's playing.
Yeah, Serral's playing. So Immaculate TVZ, right now, as of right now, in basically the last month and a half, I guess really since TSL and even before that, there's been a question: can anyone defeat Serral in this matchup? There was Gumiho more than a couple months ago at this point, or there's Gumiho. Said that right? It's not even a long day. I don't know what's happening. But anyways, then there was the Maru, right? We were like, well, Maru might be able to do it, and then Maru kind of got slapped. Maybe that wasn't peak Maru. That's something I said, I believe, at TSL. I thought he could have done better if he was on his A game, but still, it was a bit of a slap. Maru doesn't usually get slapped. So Clem, he's giving it his all. He's trying to do something that Maru couldn't even do, and it's not working. Serral just looks too good.
He looks great, and right now he just keeps on evolving. He's going for the lurkers after this. He's going to +3 armor. The Vipers, uses them, gets back, gets more energy, just reapplies the creep spread. He's taking his whole half of the map, and he's looking great. Like, this is when Serral's playing this good, all feels right in the world, except the fact that I wish Clem could have maybe made him sweat a little bit more, because it really didn't feel like Serral sweat at all in this series.
See, I think when Serral's playing this good, yeah, he is. But I do agree that it kind of feels right in the world, but it also feels like balance complain time. Get on it, guys. Get it. It looks so unbeatable.
It does, but I think, yeah, it looks unbeatable, and maybe it kind of is. Serral is just absolutely phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. And this was a big test for him on this side of the bracket for sure, given that he got Clem in the first